Today we're diving into the electrifying sound of hard techno. A genre that has seen a super significant surge in the past few years. With its high BPM, hard-hitting kicks, and distorted drum layers, hard techno really creates an intense and high-paced dance floor experience. With leading artists like Ian Models and Alignment pushing the boundaries of this genre further, festivals worldwide are now also embracing the sound, and a perfect example of it is Verknipt in the Netherlands, which has exploded over the past few years, and recently they even sold out a football stadium, so that really shows you how big this genre has become. Because of this, we got a lot of requests to do a tutorial on this, so we did our best to explore the genre a little bit and find some cool tips and techniques to show you guys today. Without further ado, let's now dive straight into the video. So we're going to start with the foundation of the track. I found this kick in our pack. For this, I'm using a decapitator, but you can basically use any distortion plugin. You can play around with the drive. You can go for very heavy distortion. Also, you should try to play around with the mix a little bit, because if you have it fully on 100% wet, put it to like 50%. Next, you can load up a tuner to find out the key that you're in. F scale right here. So even though this kick is already pretty heavy and distorted, it's still too brave to be used in real hard techno. And the real trick for this is basically just layering and layering. So for example, I have a top kick like this. Really straightforward, really short. Now we can really distort this and add some reverb to it. Some decapitator with punish on, which really pushes the sound to its limit. Then some short Valhalla room, which will make it sound like this. So if you turn it off and turn it back on, the difference will be really, really clear. But that's not it, so let's continue to adding more layers. So let's say we have this kick right here, which right now is a regular kick. And we want to use this as some kind of mid-torsion layer to really squash the loop together. And for that, we're just going to do a low cut first, just a really, really harsh cut. And you can get creative with it. So for example, I like to use a little radiator and then push it further with a decapitator. Here you really get that boomy, distorted sound. And you can push this as far as you want, and that's all kind of preference. So for example, let's try to add another decapitator. Basically for this, all the mixing rules and whatever are omitted, and you just want to do what sounds right and really push the sound to the limit. We want it to be a bit shorter. Just a fast recap of this: a low end bass, then a noisy kind of top kick, and a really distorted punch layer, which you made short. You can also leave it long if you want to go really, really hard. So next up in this video, I want to add a little rave top lead, really get into the feel of this track. And for that, I will be using this lead called Strobe, which is a really interesting sound in Serum. As you can see, it's two saw waves, both pushed to 16 and 15 voices of unison. But what really makes this sound so gritty is the FM from the noise oscillator. So we have white noise right here to 13%. But this is also modulating oscillator A. And as you can hear, then also we have this band filter right here pushing some of the high mids. This just adds that little extra top to it. And some tube distortion, vital to the grittiness of the sound. Some delay, some reverb, and a filter, which is not being used right now. Previously, you already saw that we were in the F scale. So we're going to put this note. You can hear the sounds really, really distinctive. And then you can just start to play around. Okay, so let's now move on to another crucial part, which are the drum loops. And the drum loops will really make or break this track, considering they will add to the groove. So for that, I will start with a ride loop. For example, I loaded in this ride loop, which is basically a 909 ride loop. and you can basically create most of the time a rhythm like this. Then you can bounce around the velocity like this. Again, this is a bit brave, so we're going to push this sound a little bit further. So first of all, a transient processor to add some more attack and decrease the release a little bit. Then again a distortion. And then here this trick's also interesting. It's a shaper box where you can add like little noise top layers. Then here you can basically play around with the release. While I solo the noise, you hear it really well. That's what being added, so really gritty kind of top. Then you want to start creating more really hard distorted loops. And a really cool trick is to start using breakbeat. And this, for example, is a really standard normal breakbeat. If you layer it with the rest right now, it wouldn't sound that good. But once you add a little chain of nice effects, such as this EQ, a heavy distortion and sidechaining, then get rid of the release in the transients processor, and again add some noise, it will sound really hard, really tailored to this genre. So from that point you want to keep adding some loops, which are essentially like made in the same way like this, but then with even more layers underneath it. You can also add textual loops like this. Then in the second part of the drop, we can add like another layer of drums. In this case, for example, a clap. I feel like the lead is still a bit soft, so let's add some processing to it. So I added an EQ and some multiband compression, and now it just has a bit more of that sharpness that you really want on these kind of sounds, which sounds like this. And then for the last part, before I start the arrangement part, I want to add like this noise layer, which I found in this modular plugin, but you can basically use a noise sample as well. And then you will try to find a nice groove that will further enhance the overall groove of your track. Let it interact with the lead a little bit. That really just adds a little extra to the sound. So I will now start arranging and then get back to you when the final arrangement is done. Okay, so I finished the arrangement and there are a few interesting tricks that I can show you, and then I will play you the full end result. So as you can see right here in front of the drop, there's this little kind of fake drop part where you release all the tension, then very quickly build it up again. So let's see, here we have the build up, all with like the snare fill and all the risers. Then you want an impact that really drops all the energy, layered together with little snippets of the rave lead. Then you can add a crash and the kick layers together with some of the drum layer that you created, and filter out the lows. So you kind of make people think the drop is hitting, but it's still not hitting. And then right here, a little vocal in between.
Lose your senses.
So that will sound like this.
Lose your senses.
And for the rest of the track, it's basically just like slowly introducing the lead right here. Adding a lot of ambience, some noise ambience and some tonal ambience. You can go way crazier with like really scary FX and stuff to really like give a theme to your own track. So this track is pretty generic, but you can go really crazy with it. But for this, I just want to keep it simple as an example. And also an interesting automation right here to slightly change the pitch bend of the lead right here. Gives you this effect. And here in front of the track is a little reverse to really suck you into the track immediately. And I think that's about it for this video. So I will now play you guys the end results.
Lose your senses.
Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was basically our first stance on hard techno. So if you guys have tips or tricks, you can also definitely leave them in the comments down below. If you guys are interested in a modern techno sound sample pack, head over to the link in the description or click over here. Check out our pack Radiant, which is a techno sample pack containing samples, presets, project files, vocals and much more. So if you want to check that out and support the pack, we would be very grateful. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe down below and also follow us on Instagram at the Producer School for daily tips and tricks. For now, I want to thank you guys for watching and I see you guys in the next video.